Shut up. That, in a nutshell, is why men like me. It's part of it. It's definitely part of it. Anyway, uh, I hope you die. Episode 3, Nutnfancy and Jeremiah Johnson. I'm just kind of picking a YouTuber that I really like and pairing them up with a fucking Western I like, and I'm going to talk about them both. That's what I'm doing with this podcast. And, like, don't take the title wrong, Nutnfancy. I don't hope you die. It's a line from Tombstone. But I think it's a new title. So we're going with it. I have been watching Nutnfancy since, God, it had to have been 07, 08, somewhere in there in my high school library. We didn't have internet at my home yet. I was poor. And I had to work at the school and save up to get a cell phone. And when I did that, I bought an iPhone so that I could have YouTube at home to watch Nutnfancy, amongst others. So Nutnfancy, James Yeager, Iraq veteran, oddly enough, was doing videos on Nagant revolvers and Mosin-Nagants at the time, and I was interested in both because I was buying both. Wasn't your average high school student. Some of you guys, work to get some things. I was working to buy iPhones and guns. So, like, does Ray Ray make smart decisions? Usually. What should disturb you is, a few years ago, I thought that the smartest thing I could do was say, fuck this world, because we're all gonna die. It should very much concern you. I like to set myself up for future success. I'm like a wizard. I can kind of do whatever I want, wherever I want, move anywhere on the board, and this is my play. You can like it, you can not like it. Anyway, I love Nutnfancy's videos though, because he's like a total nerd, and he's like a sci-fi nerd too, and you can tell because of some of the stuff he talks about. He likes Star Wars and whatever, not to the level that myself or Matt do, probably, but likes it enough that we could have a discussion about which eras of Star Wars are good and bad, which is more than most people. Like my girlfriend, one of the things that I liked about her, besides the fact that she liked Star Wars, was I showed her Nutnfancy, and it was all I was showing her, like the kit philosophy videos and all of this shit and kind of explaining stuff. And as soon as she kind of got that, like, I can learn stuff from this that applies to combat, he watches Nutnfancy still, I guarantee it. And that's my thing that, like, I like about Nutnfancy. He's kind of like me. He really goes and does his own thing, whatever that is. Like, I live with my guns. I work on them. Whatever. Like, I don't get to shoot as much as I'd like. I bought this thing half because, like, I figure my cap and ball revolver will be the cheapest thing to shoot, and I like cowboy guns. And one of the things that I liked most about Nutnfancy was that he is the only YouTube channel to mention both Red Dawn and Jeremiah Johnson and several of the other movies I like, boys. Like, this is the thing you don't get is Nutnfancy and I are in the same church, whatever the fuck that is, I guarantee you. He's technically Mormon or something probably, but if I described my church to him, he would join it. I tell you that for sure. And like, that sounds odd to you? You should know I'm very religious. My religion appeals to most religious people. Um, I dig a lot of what Nutnfancy does as a result of that. Now, he does have his downsides or whatever. Matt has some grudge against him. Matt Never Enough Ammo. And that's why, like, on his shows, I always just was like, yeah, Nutnfancy's a moron. Whatever. It's not worth the fight. It's not worth the fight when you like somebody that much. Now that I don't have to deal with Never Enough Ammo anymore, be a little bit more vocal about my love of Nutnfancy. And that's, I kind of feel bad about that. I should have done it on a show, but it wasn't worth it. Everybody on the panel likes to bash and hate on Nutnfancy, and honestly, I was kind of a broken, scared little kid, and Nutnfancy made videos that spoke to me. So, kind of like literally fuck all you people that don't like him. And the movie that most reminds me of Nutnfancy is Jeremiah Johnson. I think that is Nutnfancy. I don't think he really needs any of you, which is hilarious. I guess he's kind of like me. He likes this show aspect of it. He would, as long as he can do this and continue to like put a message out there, he's cool. That's me. Like, I don't want to lose my YouTube channel, but at the same time, my message is spicy, and it has to be spicy because no one else is anymore. Literally, I think I live in the world of Demolition Man, and everybody else is sitting around a virgin singing I'm an Oscar Mayer wiener. Meanwhile, Ray Ray fucks black men outside in the streets. Or rather, they fuck me. Not just black men. I like all men, but like, I was going to show you my holster. Because the Neo-Confederacy needs to acknowledge the wrongs of the past. Anyone who's in my audience who's black thinks this thing's probably fucking hilarious, I would guess. If you don't, you should definitely get a sense of humor, because this is fucking funny. The fact that, like, I'm distantly related to Robert E. Lee is even funnier to me. Because, like, I feel bad. And, I like having sex. Everybody needs love. I really just like big dicks. That's really what it is. Like, black, white, indifferent. I'm just kind of a hoe bag. I'll admit that. Talk about Nutnfancy and Jeremiah Johnson and big black dicks and being a hoe bag. Welcome to my show. Like, really, who else would do this video? Nobody. How? Jeremiah Johnson is one of the greatest westerns ever. First off, because John Milius wrote it, and second off, because the Mountain Man movie. John Milius wrote Red Dawn, which I guarantee you I could sit down and talk to Nutnfancy for about 19 hours about Red Dawn and how it influenced both our lives. Because, like, I saw that when I was 4 or 5 years old, and pretty much from then on, we existed to kill Russians. Russians killed Jed and fucking Matt Eckert. Therefore, Russians must die. Like, that was in there for a long time. And to be honest, I thank God every day that John Milius was who he was and made the films he did and made Red Dawn the way he did, because he made me the person that I am today, talking to you to like Nutnfancy and Jeremiah Johnson. Because, like, in reality, there's a lot of the gay, trans, whatever universe that won't ever watch Nutnfancy, that would never find Jeremiah Johnson, that, like, you need to fucking go see that shit. Like, that's made for you. He's literally out there hanging with Indian chicks and picking up wayward kids that had their whole fucking family massacred and shit. Like, he's like the finder of lost children and like the least racist fucking cowboy ever in fucking history or some shit. Like, it's great. John Milius writes great shit. Like, he writes great female characters. Go watch any of his movies. Go watch The Wind and the Lion or Conan the Barbarian and tell me he doesn't write great female characters. My only issue in life is that I am a chick from a John Milius movie brought to real life, because that's what I wanted to be. And like a chick from a John Milius movie doesn't ever fucking back down. And I won't. Like he writes these like alpha bitch women that like I guess he was attracted to. Makes me wonder about if we met. I like old men. I'd fuck John Milius. Flat out. Offers open. I'd say I'd fuck Nutnfancy too, but between being married and being Mormon and being weird, like it's just lots of weird. I have my limits. My debauchery only knows so bad. What's the line from Tombstone? When Doc Holliday's like dying, he's like, my so and so knows no bounds. Someone watching this will have watched that Western and know what I'm talking about. Fill in the blanks below, kids. Oh, I think my favorite videos that Nutnfancy ever did were his series of like backpacking videos and or the tactically squared away video I found very useful. Like it's not the gear or anything in it, it's how he thinks about things. And like this is the thing that I found valuable about Nutnfancy really is watching his videos is a download on how to be a pretty decent, probably mid-tier Air Force officer. And the gear knowledge and training that came with that, which isn't always good, but at least it makes you think about things. His stuff makes me think about things. I change the things I do based on things he does. I watch him and InRange TV and a few others that like I really like. My gear is not the most expensive in the world, but I guarantee you I could go toe to toe with fucking Delta Force with most of it. Especially once I get night vision again. I'm working on that. If you would like to contribute to the Night Vision Fund, patreon.com/Rachel's Place. We're going to be doing increasingly crazy shows or whatever. Like, I don't care. I'm probably going to be screaming less at my old friends. But, it seems like that's what you people want. Oh, goddamn. My phone's plugged in. I forgot. Like a cat. The thing that really got me hooked on Nutnfancy was watching his gun videos. And I think that's most of the people that watch him are from the gun and knife community. And I was from the gun, knife, backpacking, camping, lifestyle community of whatever. Like, when I was watching Nutnfancy at my peak, I was an anthropology student. I was traveling the world and camping. And I then went and worked for the Boy Scouts of America and lived outside the tent doing that too. And that didn't even bother me. Like, that was before really hardcore camping a lot and doing some other shit. But I don't know. I was always that kind of person. I like living, in a tent outside. I think it's kind of fun. I am like, I don't know. I've done that. The longest I've ever lived in a tent was like probably 3 months in a wall tent. In a tent, like pop-up tent, it's probably like 3 or 4 weeks. And that's without moving it. Moving it, it's maybe twice that long, something like that. I don't like to live in the little tiny tents. I like the wall tents. And once you realize that you're going to have a vehicle, why not bring a big tent? Anyway, Nutnfancy shit fit into that really well. And I was like, raised by my grandfather, loved Red Dawn, have always been part of the militia, believe it or not. Like, I know I'm kind of fucking a fruit bat and I have heels on and I'm, dressed like a chick and I have long hair and tits. that doesn't mean that I can't shoot a rifle. If someone comes here, like, I'm gonna die with the rest of y'all. I think there's a lot of trans women that are like me. I think there's a whole bunch of us that, they don't do this live on the internet or whatever because they have more good sense than that. And I don't make the best fucking example for our community at times because I just put me out there. And I don't think that me is necessarily representative of the community, but I think my thoughts, views, and opinions on trans issues align much more with what they think than with what you think. And I hope that they are, seeing that this is my whole thing. Like, I feel sometimes like I'm not a part of their community. Maybe that's just because, like, I never really hung out with them. I always hung out with gun people. And there are very few trans gun people. Like, Derpy is a really good friend of mine, but I haven't talked to them in forever. There's just not that many trans gun people. Like, Blair White now has guns. And I think it's hilarious. Like, the difference between my guns and me shooting guns and Blair White's guns, Blair White turned into a gun bunny. I am like a gun porn star Marine sharpshooter. There's a difference between us. Am I still fat? I'm working on it. Like, that was one of the things I think always kind of pissed me off a little bit about Nutnfancy is you could tell that, like, he basically would have hated me from the moment he met me. He would have hated me from without ever even knowing me just because of how I was. Because everybody assumes that if you're a certain weight that, like, you must be some piece of shit. And when you didn't do anything to get to be that weight, but be you, like, it's some, I don't know, genetic disorder. It's literally taken me several years of not eating and exercising as much as I could stand to get to the point that you see now. And part of that's I have different goals than you. And, like, getting rid of fat, it's better to have muscle, but at the same time, hormones make gender dysphoria better, and that makes us muscle. I don't really care. I feel better now than I have my entire fucking life. And partially, this is why, like, my goal in training up and being better and better and whatever is I'd like to go have some more adventures. And the thing that I see that I can do right now is, take my minivan and my black powder revolver and, go have some fun out in the West. I like to have my finger in the guard with a black powder revolver, any sort of single action. I know that's probably contrary to what most of you believe. It's I press my finger forward in the guard to control the gun while I'm cocking the hammer, and then I'm dropping back to shoot. So it's faster. And, like, with this gun, I shoot it that way. It's the only way I shoot these guns. It's not, it's sort of like, this is a Glock. I shoot Glocks this way. It's very much so that. I like it. And it does take a shitload of training to just live with your finger on the trigger of one of these. But it's one of those that, like, until I pull the hammer back, we ain't doing shit. From pulling the hammer back, I want it to go off as fast as humanly fucking possible. So there's a chance I might just do that. Which, for those who didn't see what I did there was roll cock it with my hand. Like, I cocked it back like this, and then at the same time I let go of the hammer, I tripped it. So in reality, this gun would be moving back like that if it was loaded. Like, that's another thing people don't get is, like, shooting these guns. When I grip this thing, I have a fucking death grip on it because I don't want it to move. Because I'm going to be shooting multiple fucking shots, probably. The way to really shoot one of these is like this. better with cartridges. You'd have to slow down a little bit with one of these cap and balls. Anyway, I treat this thing like a toy right now because it doesn't even have active nipples in it. Okay. What is it, church boy? Ew. Getting my hair. That's nasty. I was at a restaurant. I was got like something in my hair. Take care of that in a minute. Oh, this is my old man Church. He loves you. Cat asshole for you. Anyway, between Nutnfancy having an obsession with camping in the woods and shit out in the middle of nowhere and actively talking about Jeremiah Johnson, that has to be the Western that I bring up for him. But there's many other Westerns I could bring up for him. Like he mentioned The Quick and the Dead, personal favorite, the gun shop scenes classic. What do you got for $5? So many good Westerns. The other thing that I've really gotten out of Nutnfancy's videos is to learn to adapt to your situations, be yourself, and have your mission and everything else drive your gear. So, like, for me, a trans girl in Tulsa, I take my own self-defense pretty seriously, but I'm not in the Navy SEALs or whatever. So, like, I know that. I adjust my gear accordingly. I get a lot of that kind of thinking from Nutnfancy. There's a lot of this channel in general that is rebranded Nutnfancy for a different audience. And Jeremiah Johnson's one of the best movies ever. Well, I don't really have anything else to say about this. I kind of go into these without a plan. And I just got back from dinner and I'm kind of thirsty. But I really didn't want to drink on camera. We went and got malts after dinner. Not healthy at all. And not thirst quenching at all, really. I probably should have finished that before I did this. Let's just cut this.